Hey everyone, this is Pastor Joshua over at Holy Trinity Lutheran Church, and we are continuing our interview slash conversation series for our YouTube channel. And today we have Barbara Padilla. Thank you, Barbara, for joining us today. I'm so glad that you agreed to have a conversation with me today.
Oh, yes. Yes, Pastor. Thank you.
Um, I I always start off how long have you been a member of Holy Trinity?
Probably it's going up on 16 years now. I think we came in around 2005.
Okay.
So Pastor Dan Smith was still with us. And yeah, so somewhere 2004, 2005, we started coming over.
Very cool. And are you from the Bay Area?
Yeah, I was born and raised in San Francisco.
Were you really?
Yeah,
What?
second generation Californian. My father was born in Oakland
Mhm.
and was raised in Alameda, and my mom was from New York. But yeah, so I'm true Bay Area, true San Franciscan.
And you went to high school in San Francisco, and
Yes, all the public schools and San Francisco State University. Uh-huh. Yes.
you even did university in San Francisco.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was like affordable public education and San Francisco State, believe it or not, the tuition for the first semester there in 1967 was $53. So for the whole semester, I
Wow.
mean, it was terrific. California's got a great history of, in those years of public education,
Would you major in college?
mathematics.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Right. And what did you go and do with your mathematics degree, if you did anything with it?
Yeah, no, you come up on it and it's like, well, should we focus on business? Should we focus on accounting?
Hmm.
It's go into the sciences. What do you want to do with it? And I just enjoyed it. I became good at it and I enjoyed it. So I thought, well, why don't I see about teaching it? Because most people hate math and they struggle with it. And so I thought, well, then, they advised me to say, well, why don't you teach high school? And I said, you know what? I think I want to catch it sooner on because around fourth and fifth grade or so, kids decide that this is a subject that might, give them some trouble. So if I can get them to love math sooner, enjoy it, and see the power it offers their life, then maybe I can do a good job and get more people enjoying being problem solvers. And so I did. I taught fifth through eighth grades and for a few years in San Francisco in the Mission District. Loved it. It was great work, but a lot of work. And but I got kids enjoying um, math and science, and kind of math is like the queen of sciences because it undercuts physics and undercuts chemistry. And if you're a good problem solver the rest of your life, you can get out in there, you can negotiate that interest for your car loan and know that they're charging you the right amount of money, or you're a good reasoner in problem solving.
Yeah.
So I just think I really enjoyed it, and I think it empowers you, and especially as a woman. So in college, when I would walk in I've gone through, the era with women um, coming up and trying new things and breaking the glass ceiling. So when I would walk in a math upper division class, they kind of like, oh, that was mostly men. And I was like, maybe the grade point average will go down for the scoring in this, a woman's coming in. No, really. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to raise that score.
Good.
I did because I graduated with honors.
Yeah.
So, you have to put your mind to things and whatever it is you have a passion about, make it such that you do it so well, people can't take their eyes off of you. And
Yeah.
that's Maya Angelou's approach to life is that do the things you love and you do them so well that people just can't, take their eyes off of you. So I
Yeah.
feel very fortunate that I had that gift and I was able to work on that gift and have it work for me. But also see the changes for women. more women were going into science and became computer programmers
Yeah.
and became chemists, and really filtered into the medical profession, because that was a male dominated profession. So, I feel so blessed to have seen all of these great changes in the years, and, have a small little part of it.
Right. You said something early on in that that um, that I think reveals something about your character, Barbara, that I've experienced from you myself, which is you wanted to serve other people. You wanted to serve children by teaching them to love something that you loved. Like that
Mhm.
was you said that's why you went into math, and you wanted to catch it early with kids because you wanted them to have passion like you had. And my experience of you is you are such a service oriented individual. And so it is not surprising to me that that's the way you started out your life, is going like, how can I serve people with things that I love? I just think that's such my experience of you, that's such a core part of who you are.
Thank you. Well, I
Um,
think, the other part there of serving that you see me doing in church is that uh, my father had a very bad accident when I was 11. He was a teamster. He delivered ice, and in those years, in the 50s, growing up, people didn't have ice machines. So he got ice from an ice company, and he served all the restaurants in San Francisco. He had a route.
mhm.
So he was the one that brought ice to Fisherman's Wharf, certain restaurants where they lay the crabs out. They have them in the nested in ice to keep them and preserve them, and all these restaurants. So, but he was involved in a car accident after on his job, and he had sustained a head injury. Well, he was the breadwinner, and so mom and I were like, "How are we going to manage this?" He was in the hospital for 3 months with a head injury, so we didn't know this, but the school I went to collected food for us, and it was getting kind of lean at Christmas time for us, food wise. So we opened the front door, and two men carried in boxes of food and said, "Well, this is what the school collected, and we want to give them to you because maybe there's some good meals you can make out of this while your dad recovers." And that event was so inspiring for me, that other people, strangers, would give up of their money and their food to collect for my family. I was like, wow, this is going to help us make it. We're going to make it. And so sure enough, eventually my dad recovered, and the rest of his life, it affected him. It was very difficult from then on. But that moment of people reaching out to others is why it's so easy for me to lead these drives, because I received those things. And so my mom was like, "Oh, look at this." And for me as a kid, I was like digging in there to see what great things somebody had put in there. And, but it was just that little bit of, okay, we'll figure this out. And I think it made me have great faith in other people, complete strangers, that somebody is going to get directed by God to help you out when you need it. And so for me, serving, I was served. And so, it's there to help others. Now I feel like I'm so blessed now in life. Look at all the things we have. And so for me to share a little bit now, and everybody else, just lead everybody else to share a little bit of what they have, makes a lot for somebody else. So that's,
I did not know that about you, and
yeah.
I'm so glad you told me that story, because that seems like a really pivotal moment in your life where that really cemented for you the need to serve other people as you had been served.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, that's amazing that you know that, and you know that how for foundational and formational that was for you. That's
Right.
really something.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Thank you.
Yeah. So what else from your kind of well, I would say younger years. I'll say earlier years.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No,
uh,
they're definitely younger years. I think,
that you want me to know, like you would want people to know about you.
yeah. Well, I think faith-wise, I have I've always been a Lutheran. It goes way back. Okay, so on both my mom and my dad's side, my grandparents all immigrated on both sides from Germany around the late 1800s, early 1900s, and all of them came through New York, except a grandfather, my father's father, came through the around the horn of the South America by the Navy and came into San Francisco Bay that way. But all of them immigrated and participated in some kind of faith church, Presbyterian or Lutheran. And so that I have followed that all along. But I've also at the same time taken up classes that teach me about world religions and what makes faith work for all peoples of the world. And so I just would see then where our doctrine fits in with the beliefs that other people have sustained their lives with. So I had great pastors in my whole life that have been very influential in helping in faith steps confirmed, and so on. So I feel it's really important that we have those faith steps continue for the church.
Where you at in San Francisco?
Grace Lutheran. I grew up on the southeast section of San Francisco, kind of where 101 comes into the city there, by where Candlestick Park used to be. That part of the city is where I grew up in a working class. Wonderful mixture of people, Portuguese on one side, Greek on the other, Italians across the street, and that's how San Francisco has always been, a really mix of people and cultures and foods and faiths. So a lot of Catholics in our area. So, but since Lutheran was, just a little bit off in terms of some of the doctrine and the way we did things, but we still had similar confirmations and similar beliefs about the sacraments. So, faith community would treat our neighbors the same way pretty much. So I think that has sustained me a lot. Great relationships with pastors. And I always felt good about it, that they were human like us in the sense that they had families and they married and they had good days and bad days, and so when the sermons would come, it's like, yeah, they're going through the same things we are, worried about, how their finances are going to turn out, and worried about how their kids are going to do in school and everything. So it made it like being with another bigger family, which is what humankind is.
Is Grace Lutheran still around today?
Yeah, it's become more serving the community as part of. It was a Missouri Synod, and it's still part of the Missouri Synod, but it's become Christ for All Nations.
Oh, okay.
That's the changed title. And it happens that our pastor was a very progressive Missouri Synod. He really served the community that we were in. So, he was more open to things and not as strict about some things. Certain things he had to be. But I learned later on, being in ELCA, that we came up in a church that was really pretty progressive Missouri Synod at the time.
For sure.
The way he still taught us confirmation, the way he approached life of loving everyone, was not like, well, they're there and we're here,
Yeah. Right. It's yeah, that's wow, that's really cool. Did and so you had a family that was Lutheran, but you had this big kind of cosmopolitan experience growing up too, which really helps with empathy, I think, and trying to understand where people are coming from. I guess that's awesome. Is there anything from let me say this. Tell me about your family. Do you have brothers or sisters? Your parents, are they living?
No, I don't have any brothers and sisters. I was the only child. I think my mom lost two before me. And so when I came along, boy, they were like, yes, this one is going to stick and make it. So, unfortunately, that the difficulty of the injury for my dad and the hardships that came along, then they ended up divorcing. So I was then raised a couple of years by my mom, and she went back to work, because she had been an executive secretary in the business world previously. So she just brought her skills up and went back to work. So it was just the two of us then. And but unfortunately, she came down with a very rare disease. So that really hit her hard over 8 months. And then at 16 and a half, I lost her. So this is where my faith comes in again, because the doctors told her, it's really rare. We're doing everything we can for you, but it's not workable here. So we better get things in order. So she built a team of people to oversee how things were going to play out for me and for her, her finances and stuff. So she built a team of a pastor, our pastor, an attorney, and my godparents. And that team then took over when that actually happened, and she passed. And it was great because now the pastor helped me with continuing my faith and found someone to live with me until I was 18 from our church. And then I didn't want to go back east where my mom's side was, because I really wanted to finish out in San Francisco. I wanted to finish my high school. I had all my friends, and I knew how everything was. I was familiar and comfortable. So anyway, that team was great. And my godparents were great. They were the ones that handled the finances till I was 21, because now I was like, a ward of the state, so to speak. Dad just couldn't function too well. So I eventually ended up taking care of him later on after he got some more help. And that was great. I came back full circle to help him. But yeah, so then I said, nope, school's important. I'm going to go on to university here. I know everything, and I'll just keep at it. So that's pretty much, and I was surrounded by great people that she put in place. So that taught me that keep your faith going. Don't ever give up your faith in Jesus Christ. He'll take care of you. And he did. And I just feel great that I had that basis, that foundation, that she had the insight to, put that in place. So I really believe in building a team of people to work with you and leading them and then doing your part. And so I feel, I made it. I was blessed. Yeah. So yeah.
And tell me about your family now.
Well, Leroy and I are going to be married coming up on 27 years. And so when we met, he had 2 daughters from his first marriage, Stacy and Cheryl, and they were, 10 and 12 at the time. So I was very nervous about, how melding that together, coming into their life. It was very important that we spend a good year of seeing if that relationship would be good with them and good for Leroy too. So no, we've had great years. They live fairly locally. The youngest girl, Cheryl's in Sacramento on her own up there, and Stacy lives in San Francisco. She's married, and we have 2 grandchildren. 9.5 and 5.5. Wow. So yeah, so we're busy with seeing them grow up, and both kids like math. And but they're doing a great job. Yeah. The pandemic has changed all of that so much, but in terms of creating great life and having wonderful vacations with them. And then I just played a role back because I think they had their mom, and that person's so valuable and important in their life that I'll just be here and we'll work together. So I kind of, if they needed help with school stuff, I was there. And then, but we were all richer because we had each other. And they eventually said, we feel rich that we have this additional person in our life that we can, talk to and talk things over. And so that's how we've come along. And I have a great relationship with Sharon, their mom, so that we can work together as a whole family. So we'll keep going on that. And so that's worked out really well, because it was a lot of picking kids up at a location, getting them to school when it was our turn. I understand your life, and making it work. And it helped me when I taught Holy Communion at Hope Lutheran too, because when I had kids in Sunday school for all those years, there'd be divorce settings. So one Sunday they were with this parent, and one Sunday they would come to church and be with us.
Mhm.
And so then when we did any extra teaching things, like getting ready for communion time, I made sure it had double sets of work to go home. Wherever they were, it could go with them. So it taught me to be understanding of kids, how they have to live their lives in two houses, two sets of things, and so it was very helpful then. And I enjoyed my work at Hope Lutheran before I came over. Lee and I had transferred. I was able to teach a lot of Holy Communion instruction each year with the pastors that were there. And I just want to tell you one little short story. One of the girls I was doing this in the 4th grade, because, communion instruction was always just in confirmation time. So we, as Lutherans, didn't have communion until you were 8th grade. That was when you got communion. It wasn't
in the Missouri Synod.
Yeah, right. Well, And so anyway, I started trying to teach it around 4th grade and bring it into the Sunday school curriculum more heavy. And the pastors and the parents, we all sat down, talked it out, and they said, "Oh no, let's make that a real faith step. We'll do that." And so this was in the 80s when we were doing this, and into the beginning of the 90s. Well, one girl loved horses so much, and she enjoyed Sunday school, but she'd always bring up something about horses, she loved horses and stuff. So then after communion instruction was all done, she made me a gift for the class, that she had enjoyed the class. And she made me a tile, and she said, "Communion," this was Claire, she said, "Communion's like horses. It helps you be strong and free." And I thought, wow, okay, this 10-year-old, she has the whole thing in 3 words: strong and free, because it makes you strong and it frees you. And I thought, Claire. And so when you teach, the sermons, the children's sermons, and the kids come back with some profound statement, I'm like, yeah.
That's amazing, Barbara.
They always teach you,
Yeah.
and so that's this tile hangs in my house, because it's like, this is the message.
That's
That's
the gospel
part of that.
right there.
Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, he comes through in faith in so many ways to us, and even applied to math. So what is the beginning and the end? Reading all our great authors like Mitch Albom, which have a little faith, the one where he interviews the rabbi, and people come to question the rabbi, and they said, "But where does God start? Where does God end?" He says, "He's the Alpha and the Omega." But see, mathematically, it's there too, because how did everything start? It started from one point out there, and that point was God. And then how does life end for us as we know it in this world? That's the Omega. That's when God takes over again our life, takes it back. He takes us back. So, wow, it kind of comes together with the math of the universe and the faith of the universe. Aren't we lucky?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's such a great thank you so much for sharing that. Oh, I am enriched by that whole story, Barbara. That is just amazing.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
and I just love people. So I enjoy church, and it's been hard with the pandemic not to be around each other, and to get our Sunday hugs and see people, in their individual lives, and hear their stories and their laughs, and how everything's going for folks. But I think I agree that John McDowell said, that we're doing very well as a church in terms of trying our best to, keep us going as a community.
For
So,
sure. For
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
I want to switch gears for a second.
yeah.
Do you have any like hobbies or passions that maybe we don't know about? Like, do
Mm.
you what are your hobbies? What are
Yeah.
you passionate about?
Well, the garden is really big for me,
Really?
and I'm pretty athletic. I think all my life has been um, keep yourself healthy and strong. So I was a runner. I've been in the Beta Breakers about 5 times. Always conditioning, keeping yourself as the de-stressor along with it, but just keeping yourself healthy. So Leroy and I walk a couple of miles every day that we can, and we play golf once a week, and so I always have been taking in a sport somewhere along the line because it just makes me feel great and
Nice.
healthy and good for the body, but good for your mind. And so working in the garden is like that for me too, because you're out there and you just see things growing and you nurture things, and you're healthy outside, fresh air. So, but I've done a lot of, I skied and water skied. And so I've taken in a lot of sports over the years, and I enjoy that. And then reading when I can. I just really enjoy these great authors that we have had in our years, C.S. Lewis and Mitch Albom and Max Lucado, and there's always some new thing coming out. I really enjoy that. I'm not so much of a mystery or fiction reader. I like nonfiction, learning about
Yeah, me too.
whales or yeah. And so, but I just have put my mind to something. So I taught myself to crochet or cook. I was cooking like crazy in the beginning of the pandemic, baking gingerbread and cheesecakes and adobo chicken and yeah.
Anne
So
Anne learned how to make flour tortillas.
they look magnificent.
But
But
they were so
they
good. And
yes,
we were
yeah,
making like beignets and we were
yeah.
like creme brulees. I was like, we got to stop because I'm just, you know,
Yeah, because the
I work
hard
out
part
every
is
day,
you
but
you
my
you
body
make it,
can't
but you
keep up
want to
with that
eat it.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. So we went through that period of, and you come back to it, but it is good to teach yourself those skills along the way, and then you're richer because now you know that recipe and you can go get those ingredients, put that together when you want to do something festive or whatever. I enjoyed it when we had our small dinner groups. That was fun.
Oh yeah,
We
yeah.
we were doing that at church, and then we did a theme. So they're Mexican, or that we were doing some other themes, and that was fun when we were doing that. So we'll get back to whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what our church is going to look like post pandemic. I mean, it seems like it's going to be a little different. I mean, we've had people move away and some people have joined, and so
Mhm.
it's not going to look exactly the same. And in fact, I was I sometimes go up to the church and pray, and I was realizing just a couple days ago that um, and I was sad about this, is I can't remember where people sat anymore. And usually I could look out and go, I know who sits there. I know who sit, just people's normal
Right.
kind of spots.
Right.
And there was places where I was like, I have no idea who sat in that section anymore because we've been gone for so long, Barbara, and it made me
Mhm.
sad.
Well, yeah. Yeah, and I, members that have come for quite a while, they could tell you still probably because it was just, it's that routine.
Sure,
But
sure.
yeah, but you're right. I like that picture that we took, and then we sent it away to the college students, where I shot that picture from the front and everybody was like waving. I thought we ought to put that back up on Trinity, to wave to everybody again, because it's the same feeling. We're all losing that whole sense of and I explained that to John McDowell too, that he missed that opportunity last Christmas because Christmas Eve service, the the entire church seems full to me. I mean,
Mm.
people are all the way to the back on Christmas Eve. And as president, it made me feel so wonderful to see the church full to the back like that for Christmas Eve. That this is why we work so hard all year long, because people want us to be there for that worship experience. And it makes you feel great on Christmas Eve to see everybody together. And he didn't get that. We didn't have Christmas Eve, you know.
Right.
And so I told him, well, we'll see, maybe this year. Who knows? Yeah, I know.
Right.
Uh, it
Um,
will be different. I mean, if we speak to other congregations, like the Jewish synagogue people say they want to keep up the digital Zoom along with the regular service because they're reaching way more people who are willing, wherever they are, to come in to, you know, their Sabbath, and so they're going to do the same thing, extending Zooms along with actual meeting because it opens up the church, it welcomes people, and it's another avenue.
yeah, I agree with you. I think that is something that we're not going to stop doing um, anytime soon. And I think that's just going to be the future of our congregation is
Mhm.
just live streaming it. Because whether it's Zoom or YouTube or however we decide what the best is, but
Right.
just having that online presence has has been really great. I have a friend from high school, uh, and she comes and during the pandemic, she's been switching off between my brothers and our congregation, and
Oh,
and
mhm.
and she says it's been so great having being able to worship in our community with us because we normally wouldn't have that opportunity because we don't normally live stream, right? And so
Right. No, it's made a bigger world. It really has.
yeah,
And, you know, I mean, we have to think about all the people that couldn't join us before for whatever reason while they were recovering from something.
right.
And now they can watch us. You know, that enriches their. But I remember my grandmother not going to church, but listening to it on the radio because it would be broadcast.
Mhm.
And so she was you know, that was her era, was radio. There wasn't TV or computers. So, uh, but she didn't miss out on church. She listened to it on the radio.
Yeah.
So, you know, we got away from that, and now we're back at it in an even broader way.
Well,
It's
if I could confess something to you, Barbara, and the world, I would get frustrated that people would be like, "Oh, I just go to church. I just watch, church online, and I'd be like, "Go to church, like actually go to church, Like I'm never gonna, in my mind, I'm like, I'm never gonna allow my church to live stream like that because then people won't show up anymore. And then those little, uh, I would make fun of people who had those, the, they're I heard them called communion MREs, where you lift up the top and then there's the bread and then you lift other the one and then there's the wine. I'd say I was like, that's ridiculous. We would never do that. I totally looked into buying them for the pandemic, Barbara, and it was in those moments that I was like, Lord, thank you for teaching me humility because I learned that there's a season for things and there's a time for these things. And um, where I was formerly disparaging such things, I would say, yeah, let's do that now. Like that's probably a really good way to go.
right. No, you know, I mean, so I think it's a challenge for us now to make sure that we have some things that are um, so involving people passionately that they will make sure they're there. They are present. And
Hmm.
in fact, I emailed John McDowell about, I'd like to see us have a special blessing when we open the sanctuary for the first time to go back for in person, because when Leroy and I were down in New Mexico, we visited a number of Native American places, and one was the Acama Pueblo, which is about an hour east of Santa Fe or Albuquerque. And so you're 1,100 feet high in the middle of the desert because that's their monument of where they lived, were up on the top of these plateaus. And they had a church up there. But before we could enter the church when we went on the tour, the native woman who was going to give us the tour blessed the ground and blessed the entrance and said, "This is sacred ground. This is our ancestors' place. This is where they walked, the same ground you're going to walk on." And so before we enter, we bless it every time. And so I thought, wow, let's bless our sanctuary. Let's say a prayer of thankfulness that we are all here. It's still here, and we have the privilege of entering it again and being one family in this place. And so, and just impressed me so much by that, the Native woman's leadership and her prayers. When you walked in there, you almost felt it. You could feel the people who had walked there before, and you know how special that was to them. And I thought, you know, that's how we feel about our place, because it's families and families and families before us that built that place, and that will bring people to that entrance, and that will say, and we're going to bless all of you at the same time. That's something you got to feel in person, you know, and that I wanted to mention to you that some way maybe we can work on that together.
Yeah, I'll send you, I have a couple of things on my desktop that kind of go over kind of what you're saying about having some sort of special blessing or sanctifying of the space again, that we haven't been meeting for so long. And especially with all the stuff with Paul Michelson,
Right.
to rededicate space in a way, because we didn't have a chance for that. And so
that's right. And it kind of goes with your theme of reclaiming space.
Yeah, for
really reclaiming these grounds.
Yeah.
And so I
thank you, Barbara, for that. I appreciate that. That's we'll talk more about it. Do you how would you describe, like, what does your faith look like for you? Like, how would you, like, if you had a definition of faith, or just kind of what is this to you?
Well, I like that saying of faith is a substance of things hoped for, that it's something that relies on us always wanting to understand what God's doing for us, and that we develop our faith, we develop an understanding every day we live. So I think it's that it's your hopes, it's your sense of loving others, it's your sense of being loved first and being given that gift to love others. And I think as you go along in life every day, you learn more about that and what it means for you. But I think it was given to us first, and that we have the chance to, you know, share it in different ways. And so it's faith that you're going to understand more of what God's doing in your life every day. That's kind of what it is. And it, to me, faith means practicing that. So I have to go and practice it in a way. So that means reading, coming to church, saying the words and the prayers, but what do they mean for me now? You know, what is my more understanding? And what am I still hoping for? What do I still want in life? And what do I want to give to life? And I think that kind of,
that's lovely. Substance of the things hoped for is Hebrews, I believe. Hebrews 1 or Hebrews 11. I forget exactly.
Yeah, I'm not sure which chapter it is, but I think
that's really a great definition. And I like your you know, it's about putting it into practice. I think that's a really important thing to say.
Make it real, but try to explain it. It's very hard, you know, but I think that's good, because if we can quantify it, it doesn't have the universal sense about it, you know. If we could box something up, no, that's not who what faith is or what God is. It's bigger than us, and we're always learning about it. you know. Yeah.
There's I'm gonna mess it up, but there was a saying that once you can explain it, it cease becoming it. Uh, like like once you can explain God, that then it's not God anymore.
Yeah. Mhm.
So uh, I think there's something with some I forget. Uh,
Yeah. Right. Right.
but I really like that explanation of what you just said. Okay, this is
Well,
my last question. Oh, well, let me ask you this. Is there anything else we should know about you? Any other stories you want to tell us?
um, mm, oh, I think I covered quite a
No.
bit. I think one thing I want to recommend to everybody um, is this book I pulled out, the Book of Joy. Okay.
I
Uh,
loved that book.
yeah, this is the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, and it's 5 days that they spend together talking about what is joy, what is happiness in life. And again, here it is, so broad to see these wonderful people who've lived life and lived faith and been challenged incredibly. And so for people, looking for things now in the difficult times that we've had over this last year, you just can't help but smile when you read this. So
I'm so glad you read that book, Barbara, because I listened to it about a year ago.
mm,
No, probably maybe 2019 is when I listened to it.
yeah,
Um, and I loved it so much. Um, and I loved both of their just conversations and their, it was such a beautiful book. I'm so glad you recommended it.
mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah, have you finished it?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Did you just finish it, or
No,
have you
no.
had this for a
I
little
read it
while?
a couple of years ago,
Oh,
but
awesome.
it impressed me, and then I came back to, picked up a couple of pages out of it again during the pandemic, but mostly for like, how are we going to get out of this? How are we going to feel happy again? How
Yeah.
are we going to, see joy in so much going on around us and all of the injustice things that are happening?
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
yeah, so just a recommendation.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Mhm.
Barbara, you have brought joy to my life in this conversation, and I am so grateful for you. The last question I always ask people is, what are your hopes for our congregation at Holy Trinity? What is your hope for us as a congregation?
Oh, well, I hope that we can continue as this um, family that we create when we're together, because that's how it feels for me there, and so for me, that's very important. Church has always been a family for me. And so I really look forward to that time when we can be together again and eat together again and worship together and laugh together in person. And I think we're doing great on screen, but just having that to look forward to, it's like another set of events for me. And so where can we go? I think if we just try to maintain what we've been doing, um, uh, that takes a lot of energy right there. So I want us to just keep taking good care of each other and the building and what we're going to offer. I have no idea what um, we will offer to the community, but there's certainly plenty of work to do as an outreach,
Amen
and
to that.
and that outreach is going to connect us to what the next steps will be, I think. So, plus what our congregation members want to offer, what they want to see us do, which I turn over to council, where they are going to lead us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, thank
So,
you for that, Barbara, and thank you for this conversation. I appreciate it so much.
well, thank you for the interview, Pastor.